Is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 122. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... He's sitting here Sunday afternoon, coming off of a frigid, tough draw that was earned out there in Seattle. But before we get into today's episode, I will ask you, as I always do, how are we feeling, my friend?
It was a late night for sure. Great hanging with all the boys there watching that game, but it was a late night for me, particularly later than you.
Yeah,
you are a bit more responsible, a bit more wise. But the sky is not falling for me. I know that there's a lot to take away from this game, good and bad. But after some, reconsideration, some relooks, some rewatches, understanding what we went into and how we walked out of it, I feel moderately good about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the sky is not falling. I don't think it's possible to say that with any sort of sincerity when the best player has not played yet. I will say this. I'm not happy. And there will be points throughout this episode that I will certainly, I think, make that known. But I do agree with you. The sky is not falling. And, it's 2 games out of 34.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into last night's game, we'll also talk about Will Bruin's Sounder at Heart podcast appearance. Gave us a little bit more info about the tweets he put out last weekend. Best keeper in the world, last business day. And then I wanted to talk about some of Garth Lagerway's comments on Extra Time this week as well. Before we do all of that, if you've got 5 seconds here, pause the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. And if you're watching on the YouTube, leave a comment as well. That helps battle the overlords too. So at Seattle, of course, late night on Saturday after a full day of MLS action, which was fun at times, boring at times, giving the scoreline in some of those matches, particularly in the afternoon. But jumping back to Thursday, we had press availability. We got Coach Wolf. We got Alex Ring, which was nice. And the thing that I guess the takeaway from Thursday's media availability that was most important for Saturday's match was questionable Driussi. He was doing individual work on Thursday, so that sounded like more of a doubtful. He didn't end up playing. We got the timeline on Leo for his plantar fasciitis issue, at least a month. Reevaluated after that, could be up to 8 weeks. So 1 to 2 months there on Leo. And then the injury report comes out on Friday, and Brendan Hines-Ike is on it. Not injury related was the tag, so best guess was personal issues. That was then confirmed by Coach Wolf post-match. But that meant Saturday morning we got the news of 3 short-term loan agreements, one for Valentin Noel, another for Sal Mazzaferro, and another for Antonio Gomez.
Uh-huh.
And I mentioned that not just because good on those boys, like obviously the team calling on them to step in here early in the season when we need some help with our depth already. But then the lineup comes out from the team, about an hour before kickoff, and Val is in there and Tony is in there and no Sal. And so before we talk about the other, like the actual first team contracted players that were in this lineup or on the bench, I found that interesting because, again, we've seen about 8 seconds of Antonio Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
I said on the podcast, I was not impressed, but again, it was against first team competition. This is a guy who was undrafted, right, out of Cal Baptist last year. So haven't seen him, reserving judgment. I don't have high hopes. The fact that he made the bench, like, I think when FCTO kicks off less than 2 weeks from now, Friday the 15th, against Tacoma, he might be the guy I'm most interested to watch, because if this was on merit, he's on the bench over Sal, and not Sal is nursing some sort of injury of his own or what have you, that's interesting to me. So I just wanted to ask if you had any opinion on that, because I was very surprised to see Gomez and not Mezzafero. Both would not have been a surprise either, considering they brought all three, but that was a little eyebrow raising for me. Do you have any thoughts there?
I was also a bit surprised by that, for sure. We've seen Sally Maz play at the FC2 level and be very competent, and he was probably the best center back that we had last year. And even when Kip was down there, Sal was still playing at a really high level. But like you said, we have about 10 seconds of Gomez actual tape. So I'm going to go ahead and put my faith in the coaching staff that gets to see these guys all the time and trust that it was the right decision. And then we can revisit that after these FC2 boys kick off, and we can get a full look at Gomez paired with Sal and look and see what that looks like. But even if it got down to that, obviously you see the Heinz Ike personal matters on that injury report, and that was super concerning, because it was like, okay, well, we're without Leo, so like we need some depth back there. Alex CB4, I think, was definitely on the table before you see a Gomez substitution there. But again, we'll revisit that in a little while. Did raise my eyebrows a little bit, but nothing too big.
So that lineup was Stuver and Net, back line of Jean Kolmanich, Matt Hedges, Julio Cascante, and John Gallagher. We had Johan Valencia in front of that back line. It was in the way they played and aligned on defense. It was almost a back five with Johan kind of as the point man there. Alex Ring in front of him wearing the armband. Danny Pereira at the 10. Then you did have both of your guys there. Diego Rubio was up top, Hader Obrian in on the right for Finley and Zardes, Emiliano Rigoni still out there on the left. Bench of Cleveland, Jimenez, Biru, Gomez, Wolf, Noel, Finley, Fodre, and Zardes. So any other takeaways for you from this lineup? I know you were excited to see Rubio and Obrian in there.
I was definitely excited to see this first 11. Then I was not very excited to see them out there on the pitch, particularly the two new guys. But we'll get into that as we progress into the game here. I was satisfied with the 11. Josh hinted at it all week that some substantial change were coming to that starting 11. I was calling for it. I think that after that first half of Minnesota, I don't even know if you can ever run out that first lineup again that played that first half. So I was happy to see the rotation, give these guys a chance. You have Rubio, who's obviously a seasoned vet and knows how difficult it is to go into Seattle and get a result. So I'm glad that he was out there. Not that Giassi also doesn't have that experience, but Rubio does have a bit more of a bite to him. He's got a bit more of attitude. He's got a bit more of an edge. And I think that we really just needed that, even from the standpoint of, like, if we don't see the production stat-wise, shot-wise, goal-wise, that energy, that kind of confidence, like in your ability to have that bite and that aggression, was something that we just needed, because literally we'll take anything at this point in time to elevate these guys as much as we possibly can and to get 10 back to being healthy.
Congratulations to Bradley Stuver, first player in club history, 100 regular season MLS appearances. So I'm not sure we've ever been more happy to have Brad than the last 2 weeks.
This man is earning his paychecks. That is for damn sure. He is really, really earning his paychecks. Again, another wonderful game last night. I know the stats are completely lopsided, and we'll get into kind of our thoughts about their actual chances on net. But when he was called upon, he did his job.
Here's to 100 more. Jumping into this one, 41 degrees at kickoff. So it was a chilly one out there in Seattle. Sorry, just got a Bogart update on it. Carlos Vela, I don't know if you saw that the other day, maybe going to sign with San Jose. Mm-hmm. He's saying talks have cooled. LAFC still in constant conversations with Vela in his camp. They look to have the inside track again. So There you have it. Jumping back to everybody's favorite team here, 4th minute. There's a long ball from Pedro de la Vega, who did get the start for Seattle again. They were also extremely shorthanded. I believe 7 absences and a questionable tag on Raul Ruidiaz. He was available off the bench. So De La Vega here, long ball to Jordan Morris, and was nodded away by Hedges at a tough angle back to Stuver. And going back on the rewatch, that was a play that I did not remember, but a fairly close call there and a good job by the veteran center back. Like that on the rewatch kind of started out the multiple notes between Hedges and Cascante last night. Just putting in a shift. And I thought those guys, like if we're looking for bright spots, those two, we talked about Brad Stuver, Johan Valencia right there in front of net. I thought that was a tough play, tough angle there for Hedges to make.
It was the start of a very good game for Matt Hedges, and it was an early test, and they kept coming, and we held the line, bend but not break, and just really great communication and work rate from Cascante and Hedges there on that back line.
8th minute, off a free kick here, Austin gets forward from Valencia to Danny. He gets it on to Rigoni on the left. Rigoni pulls it back to his right, fires it into the area, but Rubio and Obrian had already made their runs. It wasn't a particularly accurate ball, especially to where they ended up there, but I think there was some timing issues there. Again, those guys have not played a ton together. So I think both of those guys were looking for a cross in a little bit quicker than Emmy served it up. So I'm hoping that it was a timing issue, and over the next few games, we see that become a little bit more crisp. Because the way we've been playing, there's just not a ton of chances to be had. So we have to really capitalize on the few that we've been generating.
And that was a theme last night, particularly from the two new guys. There was plenty of times where you can see them visibly frustrated with either the quality of delivery of ball that they're receiving or the timing of it or lack thereof. And this was the first spot where you see this, and it was difficult. And I want to give these guys some time because obviously they're new to the system. They're new to playing with these other dudes. But there was plenty of times where I was like, oh, snap. They're used to a better ball in that situation. They are used to seeing that ball off the other player's foot in a different timing. So it was a theme last night that popped up a lot. So I'm going to give those new guys a little leeway with how they performed. But, I mean, it's only fair to say that they were not impactful as well. When we went in on Finley and Zardes for game 1, there was not a huge improvement here. But I thought the work rate was better for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I think especially on Rubio in terms of those guys up top. One thing that I didn't actually have as many notes on as I thought on the rewatch, but I still saw these, but Hunter Obrian's first touch, and we knew that on his scouting report. That was one of the things Dallas fans saying, not super consistent finishing in front of net. That seemed to not be the case during the preseason, but that first touch can be a little bit sketchy, a little bit loose with the juice, if you will.
I will.
And that popped up a few times, especially in the first half, where Obi receives a ball and just kind of gives it away, gets away from him.
I counted at least 3 unforced errors on his part in that first half with some really poor touches. But if this guy had elite level touch and elite level goal scoring, he's one of the best players in the league because obviously he has game changing speed.
Yeah. Well, and he wouldn't have likely been available in the reentry draft if he was, top tier here. Still, like you mentioned, I think a big upgrade speed-wise, and hopefully continues to get more comfortable. And I think Obrian himself, not necessarily 90 minutes fit, at least as of this weekend.
We got several guys who are not fit for 90 right now, and we're working them back into that type of physicality, readiness for a full 90. So we need some time. We definitely need some time. Unfortunately, these games count, so we need some more as well.
12th minute here, Austin. Some nice progressive passing, actually, which, of course, was a rarity last night from right to left. Another line-breaking pass to Danny seen here. Neither Jean or Danny can get a cross in on this left side. Danny ends up nearly giving it away. It goes out for an Austin throw, and then they get pushed back into the horseshoe. But there was this little, like, from minute 8 to 14-ish where Austin was competing, right? Progressing the ball into the final third, not generating anything out of it. But it was more than you could say for the majority of this match. 15th minute, Austin picks up a ball that gets away from Obed Vargas, and Rigoni makes a nice move here. I'm going to give him 50% talent credit and 50% luck. Nutmegs the defender. But then that starts the break. He sprints 30, 35 yards with the ball here, and then gets into the final third. He's got Ring trailing him on his right, lays it off into space. And I'm not going to say this is a perfectly weighted pass. I think you and I could have got to this ball, and Alex Ring pulls up, and I guess I can rip this Band-Aid off right now. I don't think Alex Ring looked very good last night, and that's worrisome. Because he's been in camp and he's wearing the armband and he's on a DP tag, really to no fault of his own. But if he's at the level we've seen him the first 2 games, we're in trouble. He's one of many red flags that I see from this team, Driussi or not.
And that's 2 consecutive bad games out of him. So I think that you're right there to be putting that red flag up. And this play just left me absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't figure out what he was thinking because, like you said, definitely not a perfect ball by any means, but he has every opportunity in the world to go get that, and he's got tons of space. So when the chances are as few as they have been in these first 2 matches, we need all of these types of plays and even 50-50 balls. This isn't a 50-50 ball that we're losing out on. It's possession in a progressive attacking third where we just pull up and rolls out of bounds. It was shocking.
19th minute, Nuhu finds some space about 35 yards out, fires a shot with some pace, but directly at Stuver. I thought on the rewatch, this shot to me is maybe a little bit of frustration on Nuhu's part and maybe Seattle as a whole that nothing tangible was materializing for them, even though they were on the front foot for the majority of that first 20 minutes. And I know you and I both, when he pulled up to shoot that, we're both like, oh, okay. We'll take that, Mr. One career goal. Because if that gets by Stuver, then we're really in trouble. But no, he gobbles it up. And again, I think you get through that first 20 minutes. Okay, you've absorbed the first punch. But this is where there was no punch back. Like that first 20 minutes, I think you see more out of Austin offensively than you do the rest of the half.
I mean, I'm glad that he pulled up, and I think it was out of frustration as well because, like you said, they didn't have any fruit to bear from all of these opportunities that they were generating, and that frustration setting in, we've been on that side before where it's we got plenty of chances and things are not going in the net for us. Everyone who roots for a soccer team has been in that position, and that frustration can be cumulative. And again, being able to absorb that first blow is very important. I know we didn't punch back after we barely punched back the entire rest of this game. But it was really good defensively. We were sound.
20th minute here, poor giveaway by Kolmanich. Sees De La Vega charging towards the net right down the middle of the pitch. He shakes off Alex Ring, but then Julio slides in with a key tackle there right outside the area. Sounders stay in possession, and Julio ends up getting their cross out for a corner. That corner played short. Then whipped into the back post where Jackson Reagan skies over Hader Obrian, and luckily for us, puts it over the bar. I think Stu might have been able to get a mitt to that and put it over himself, but that was the first real dangerous chance that Seattle created.
Yeah, and that's a poor size matchup for us. We're going to lose that size matchup every time.
Yeah, well, when fucking Shrek is out there, we don't have many guys for that size-wise. 21st minute here. Arriaga throws Rubio into the bench as he's trying to break down that right side. Yellow card given. That was a dirty fucking play. Fuck that homophobic piece of shit doing that to any of our guys. And this was maybe my favorite, one of, if not my favorite moment of the game, that Obrian goes up and gets in Arriaga's face for he threw him into the bench. That was a dangerous play. We ended up getting a free kick. Ring drove it into the box, and their keeper, Andrew Thomas, was able to grab it out of the air. But yeah, dude, fuck Arriaga. That guy sucks.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, we showed some fight. We showed a little bite. Like we weren't getting pushed around and not letting it happen. So again, that's a positive to take away from this. And, Rubio and O'Brien, man, if they got some bite, we'll take it.
23rd minute, Leo Chu receives a nice give and go down the left. He jukes John Gallagher to the ground. It takes a shot over Stuver, nearly curls it into that top corner, out for a goal kick. And then 29th minute, again, Seattle on the attack. Great block from Jean here on Alex Roldan, who had dispatched of Danny in the box. But I did want to note there that over that last 10 minutes, very good individual defensive moments and good team defensive moments, which of course continues throughout the rest of the match. But guys were back, guys were there, throwing their body in front of multiple passes, multiple shots. And so that was notable to me there, that they would shake one of our defenders, maybe a second one, and there was always another guy ready to step up. So I will give the team credit for that. Clearly, the plan last night was to go in there and muck it up and grind it out and shithouse a little bit. And look, man, it's not pretty. It's not what I want us to be about on the road. But with this current iteration of the roster, especially with number 10 out of there and being shorthanded at center back, it may just be how we have to play, especially against a team like that, even as injured as the Sounders are.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll give them credit, as unexciting as the whole night was.
I mean, sometimes it's just going to be like that. And, we might have to go in and make it ugly. We're not trying to win a beauty pageant here. We're trying to get into the playoffs with a team that's, under skilled. So I just want to shout out Johnny and the whole defensive unit. Because like you said, we had multiple effort plays where multiple guys are I think Johnny takes a mean knee to the head on this play with Chu, right? This is the one where he gets popped. That matchup was fun all night. Chu was really being aggressive in that space, going at John, and Johnny held his own the whole time. And again, it was a bend, not break mentality with that back four, or even five, with how far Johan was dropped back in that situation. And I agree. We wanted to muck it up, wanted to get out of there with a point, and we did.
Yeah, Johnny, actually, this is just that was Johnny just losing his footing. A good move by Chu. Second half when he gets banged in the head there. But that was an entertaining play as well. 36th minute here. Danny gets fouled at midfield. He got tugged on and just waited for forced the ref to call it. And Austin kind of uses this chance to catch their breath and move bodies forward for the free kick. And relative to what we've seen so far this season, especially first half week one and last night possession wise, this was a nice passage of possession off of this free kick. We end up working it around from the left to the right, where Gallagher has space to cross and 4 bodies to target. And it was a decent ball, good job by their backup keeper, Andrew Thomas, coming out to scoop it out of the air again. And then they try to go quickly off this goal kick. Cascante and Jordan Morris Morris kind of puts it across his body. Julio tries to head it away, and they collide, and it looked really rough for Julio, knee to the head. Yep. I think we were all getting ready for him to come off and, see Alex Ring or what. But it was weird because then they catch the bench on the broadcast. Nobody's warming up. Yeah. And then when he gets to the sideline before he's let back on, he's rubbing his shoulder. Yes. So it appeared that it was a shoulder knock there for Julio, and we were quite lucky that he was able to stay in there.
Yeah, and I think it was definitely one of those situations where, brother, if you're not dead, you're not coming out. So yeah. Go ahead and take your time, but we need you out there. And he played great. Julio was great last night. I feel like you watching a Steelers game last night where it's the defense is playing absolutely out of control, and you got Pickett just throwing the ball into the dirt 6 yards down the field. So it'd be great to put them both together and mold this. But if we're looking for things to build on, particularly after that there was nothing to build on in that first half of the Minnesota game, the defense found something to build on here. That was one of a very impressive defensive performance. I know they were banged up, but Raul Ruidiaz comes in the second half, and we instantly piss him off. And like, this man's a legend for a reason. Like, he's not backing down from anybody. He's going to go at you. And like, he wanted to get Stuver. There's multiple times where he's pointing at Stuver, like, I'm going to get you, bro. So
yeah,
I'm excited to get into that because that'll be a fun little thing to talk about. But I still just want to sing the praises of this defense because this is not what that first half looked like last week.
I agree. 45th minute, or this was just kind of my end of the half note on the rewatch. Austin actually much more settled into their defense, into their possession in the final 10 minutes of the first half. So the offense was still anemic. It was still bad. You saw me at the full-time whistle last night.
Mm-hmm.
I had my head in my hands, like going through it because my impressions of the offense were, oh my God. So like sky is falling for me at the end of last night, but feeling a little bit better about it. Again, in the context of what last night was with no 10 still this season. But
I mean, I think it's fair to have felt zero confidence in the offense after the first half and even the second half, because like, it wasn't that we weren't even just generating chances. We couldn't hold on to the ball for more than 5 seconds in this second half. And it's just a complete onslaught that we held on to.
48th minute here coming out of the half. Alex Ring plays the ball over the top that, man, that really could have sprung a promising break if he puts enough mustard on this, because I'm pretty sure, especially on the replay, you're going to have a 4-on-3 there with Rigoni leading the way, which maybe doesn't inspire the most confidence. But again, to that point, it could have easily turned into one of our best chances. Instead, Jackson Reagan able to get under it. Valencia then picks up a yellow, taking out Christian Roldan away from the ball. And I turn to you, right? Two for 2 for Johan. So on pace to, I think, be suspended for the last game of this month. So setting records.
He's definitely used to these refs now. The poor man. He gets adjusted to the game. Now we got fake refs in here.
Yeah. 54th minute, Austin. Another decent bout of, I shouldn't say another, a decent bout of possession here. Danny nearly turns it over, but Seattle knocks it back to the feet of Kolmanic, who puts it immediately over the top to Danny down the left. Danny dribbles into the box with Jackson Reagan in pursuit, and Seattle Shrek puts a shoulder into him. And then on the replay, I think it's more about their feet getting tangled up. And I don't think it would have been the craziest thing to see a penalty called there. I think the guys on the bench should be fighting for that. I think there's definitely contact. Danny also went down pretty easy. And Josh Wolf picks up a yellow card, I think, for arguing. It could have been they were telling Kolmanic to delay the throw. But Josh fiery as well. One of a number of yellow cards given to Austin on the night.
I mean, we made it ugly, and Danny does go down pretty easy there. You could get that call. If we did, we could have been really fortunate, but we can't get into that game.
So you're kind of with me there. Like, it was either way, it wasn't crazy.
I don't think
it would have been a soft pin if it was called.
I don't think I would have given it.
57th minute here. Yellow card to Kolmanic, his second hard foul in a minute, but I think he really gets the yellow for running up on the assistant referee on the sideline there. And then Ring comes into the head official and he gets one for arguing. And then off that free kick from the right side of the box, Stuver punches it away. Sounders maintain possession and they cross it, and Stuver cleans up that second cross and falls on it, which we saw a lot of in the last 30 minutes. And that's good gamesmanship. Man,
it'd be like that sometimes. That's all I need.
63rd minute, Pedro de la Vega sits down. This looked like to me like a planned sub, about 60 minutes. He's done. And isn't that nice to bring Raul Ruidiaz in for Pedro de la Vega?
Yeah.
So
quite the luxury.
And then 64th minute, Seattle gets through down the left. Leo Chu puts in a cross on the ground across the face of net. Jordan Morris is there nearly point blank. Matt Hedges, fantastic tackle to save the day. Again, he and Julio, props. Fantastic game for that pair.
Locked in. Definitely the best game of that duo we've had in the Verde and Black.
Well, and I think, man, if Matt Hedges is playing like that, I think that's 80% of what he was 2 years ago, I think. And that's pretty damn serviceable at worst.
We will definitely take that, particularly with our Leo timeline right now.
Well, nervy moments here for Austin before they can get some subs in. Christian Roldan pops a ball from the right towards Morris, who's making a run into the box. He slides it, or it goes all the way over Morris, rather, and then bounces over John Gallagher, who can't quite clear it out. Off that single bounce, Rui Diaz pounces, kind of half volley there, puts the ball into the side netting. One of those shots that confuses half of a stadium and looks like it goes in, but again, very lucky. And Rui Diaz, right off the rip, like you said earlier, coming at us.
Yeah, and I mean, we held our own against him. Like this dude, like I said, this man is a legend. He's a living legend, and he gets that status because he usually nets goals in games like this and has the chances that he has, and like could have put something in. But we didn't back down from him. So like I understand the offense was terrible. We showed some fight, and that's really what we were asking for after that first half of the first game.
After that ball went out, Zardes and Finley in for Rubio and O'Brien, and then 69th minute, here's that long ball down the left. Leo Chu wins it over Galley. Galley goes down. Ref plays the advantage, calling the foul on John. Chu crosses it in. Matt Hedges clears it out, and he clears it right to John Gallagher, who had been down, writhing in pain. All of a sudden pops up. He's got the ball. Of course, the fans in the stadium upset. Of course, the fans at home wearing Verde and black. We were laughing a little bit at that. Yeah. But man, dude, on the replay, he gets elbowed in the head. Like he was definitely hurting, but not hurt enough to not jump up and maintain possession there.
That soccer medicine can really work wonders.
Yeah. 71st minute. Biru, if that's his name, is on for Sean here. And what the fuck is the announcer reading? Do we not have a pronunciation guide? Bro, when the team pronunciation on the site that they released when we signed the kid is very clear. Biru.
Yeah, it's
He's
really
calling him Germ Beer.
Bro, he just made up words last night.
What the hell?
Germ Beer.
I can't believe they don't have a producer in their ear being like, yo, it's Biru. It's easy. He said beer the whole final 25 minutes here.
It was wild. It really was funny.
74th minute, good skill from Beer here on the left to get a cross in. That gets headed away to Valencia, who like lofts a ball right towards the keeper, but we cheered at our little watch party. I'm sure there were sarcastic cheers going up all around Central Texas because that was our first shot. There in the 74th. But going back to that skill to get that cross in, look, man, Biru, like we said earlier, I don't think he's anywhere fit to play 90 right now. I'm hoping if it's not next week that against Philly, maybe he can start and give us 60 minutes there because I'm impressed with his size, his athleticism. He's got 2 feet on that left side, which is an immediate upgrade from Kolmanich. Like we haven't seen nearly enough to know how his left compares to Kolmanich because Kolmanich obviously is one of, if not clearly his best ability is whipping those balls in from that side. But I was impressed with Biru last night.
He was cool, calm, and collected under pressure. He was able to work in intricate small spaces and get the ball out of his delicate position that he found himself in several times. And in that space, he was very calm, which is great, which means he knows that he can do it. So I agree, definitely not fit, but came in and really showed some positive signs. But there's a couple times here where he gets caught not being able to get back on defense and really scaring me.
77th minute here. Sounders break into the Austin area on the right. Christian Roldan to Jordan Morris onto Leo Chu on the left. Chu drops it back to Nuhu, who chips it in. And Josh Atencio rises up. His headed attempt saved by an outstretched Stuver for a throw. Great save. Brad called into action once again. We can heap some more praise on Bradley Scott Stuver if you want to, but he's been awesome.
Bradley Scott Stuver has been an absolute revelation for us. What is it? 45 shots he had.
45. I mean, obviously the shots on target are somewhere in the teens, but the fact 45 shots in 2 games. That again, with how good the defense has been, it's still a red flag for me. Because again, we set ourselves up to sit back there and bunker last night. But again, I think positive, like you mentioned earlier, the defense held up to where there wasn't a ton of shots that were actually dangerous. And then when they were, Stuver on top of his game.
I mean, they had tried to count them before we got on here, about 4 solid, really good chances where it's like, okay, you could put something away there. You have the Reagan header, you have this attempt here, the Rui Diaz shot
2
off the
Rui
post,
Diaz, yeah,
and the
the
Rui
one up the
Diaz shot
side
that
netting,
one off the side netting. So again, you see the 23 shots or whatever 22 shots they had,
23, yeah.
and it definitely tells a story of what that game was like. But there was only a handful of really solid chances for them, and like plays that we made in defensive end. Those slides by Hedges. Julio has one too, I think, right? Did he have one?
Yeah, that was in the first half.
Yes. So like a couple of those that were like just really impressive defensive plays. I mean, I want to go in on the offense, but there was no offense to go. Like we can't even bring up a highlight where it's like, okay, this sucked. But I mean, it was just a tale of 2 different units. One really cohesive, decisive, the other completely indecisive, particularly when they're in that attacking third on the rare chances that we were.
80th minute here, Christian Rovan from right to left over to Leo Chu again. Great connection between those two last night on the rewatch. Like, I mean, those guys have played together for a while now. And hopefully, like, that's some of the familiarity we start to see from this 2024 edition of Austin FC, right? As they continue to get more comfortable with each other. Probably not getting to, like, I've been on the Sounders 4 or 5 years level, but, it's something to aspire to be sure. Chu fires it right from the edge of the area, on target, right at Stuver, parries it up into the air. John Gallagher clears. Then Seattle stays in possession. Josh Atencio fires an ambitious shot from the top of the box that ends up going wide. And then in the 81st minute, right after that, Chu goes down, subbed off for Danny Musovski. Must be nice.
Yeah, I mean,
not that he's some world beater, but like they're so banged up and they don't have to bring him on till 10 minutes to go.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't do much, but again, they're down 7 dudes, but it's a different roster. And
83rd minute here, yellow card for Jordan Morris, 2-hand shoving Gallagher. And what are you arguing here? He turns around, starts arguing to the official, just literally 2-hand shoved him off the ball.
Literally turned his entire body, his hips, got his shoulders square so he could give with 2 straight arms right in the back. And like, I was surprised, that he gets a yellow here, but he could have been thrown out of that game. Not for that play alone, but just for multiple plays where he's involved. And like you said, in that first half, he get the play with Julio.
Yeah. That could have been a foul for sure.
That boot is up. So, he was physical and a bit reckless at time.
Yeah. 86th minute here. Owen Wolf comes on for Danny Pereira. I guess we can talk more about this here. We'll finish this up. 89th minute. Owen gets a yellow card and quick trigger there. He turns around. You can see on the broadcast, he goes, "It's my first fucking foul."
Yeah.
And I think the kid has a good point. Like,
yeah, Jordan Morris was getting away with hell.
It was okay. Like maybe it was a little tactical foul there, but still, it just seemed like, I don't know. It didn't seem yellow card worthy to me.
I don't think so either.
2nd minute of stoppage time here. Seattle matriculating up the field, trying to find a late winner. Matt Hedges heads the ball out of the area, out to the right. Josh Atencio gets onto it. He lofts it all the way from right to left to Raul Rui Diaz, who is just alone and the skill to volley this out of the air. And, dude, bangs it off the bar. Like you could feel the vibration from that almost through your screen. Alex Ring was able to clear it out and Austin escapes that time. But, oh, my God, was that just heart stops for a second.
Yep. But, I mean, in the long run, it didn't go in, and that would have been such a gut punch. Just, oh, God, I can't even imagine being in that situation where we hold on for that long and then Rui Diaz just puts a dagger in your back and just like, again, the talent level. I love watching the man play. He has, if not the most impressive goal I've ever seen live, one of. He's just incredible, and it sucks he's on a different team.
3rd minute of stoppage. Ring steps in front of an Arriaga pass, and the break is on. Ring loses the handle, drops it off to Rigoni, so the defense kind of recovers here. Rigoni takes 2 touches to his left to the top of the box, blasts a shot wide from outside of the area, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So stats here, 23-2 on the shots. Depending on where you look, Mob says 3 on target for Seattle. MLS says 4, so we'll go with 4 4 shots on target to 1, 0 big chances for either team, 9 corners to 0 in favor of Seattle. And on FOTMob's model, 1.24 XG for the Sounders, 0.04 for Austin FC. And this, I think, was a pertinent stat that I saw this morning. Touches inside the opponent's box, 42-4. So statistically, look at that. We are getting some live updates from our Academy sources on the score lines from the matchups with TDP Elite today. So we will talk about that during last business day. Finishing this one up, though. Statistically, a domination by Seattle, but it wasn't on the scoreboard, and I give credit to the guys. I will say this. I said earlier, right? I have red flags up in my head on guys like Alex Ring. After last week, guys like Ethan Finley, Jossie Zardes. I have a red flag up on Danny Pereira playing forward. He has been non-existent. And sorry, our buddy Kevin Morris this morning pointed out that if Danny is at the 10 and Johan and Alex are the two guys preferred behind the 10, then Danny's on the bench. And so is Owen Wolf, because when Seba comes back, so it's going to be interesting. I would really like to see Danny Pereira in the starting lineup and a little bit further back, because he's the only guy we have, it seems, that can dribble to break a line.
Yeah.
And the passing network is not working.
No.
It is not a network right now. So I don't know. I have many red flags in my head, but I also give the guys credit for the effort they put in last night. It is a point on the road is very important in this league, almost wherever you go.
Yeah.
But in turn with that, you have to win your home games. And so obviously we'll preview the St. Louis match on Wednesday's episode, but your final takeaways from this before we get to some of the post-game quotes.
It was not pretty. Obviously, like you said, statistically dominated. I went in on Rigoni last week. He wasn't better in regard to what he was producing or generating for us, but at least he came to play and he fought and he was physical and like he actually was involved in this game as best he could be. And that is that. Like he didn't have anything generated for us. I understand that. We have this one strange play with Alex where it just doesn't make any sense. It's just too hard to judge this team without 10 because we don't know how he was going to elevate these other weapons that we have now. Like he's going to make Obrian better. He's going to put those balls. The timing will be right when it's coming from 10. So we do not have a backup 10. And Danny in that forward progressing position has not looked good. Like you said, it has not bore any sort of chances for us where it's like, okay, this is something that we can build on. So if those two guys behind him are Alex and Johan, I don't know. I still think I want Danny to be back there, particularly for like Johan. Maybe it's a matchup thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like maybe it's something where we can kind of change this lineup where you're going into a place like Seattle like this and you can have Johan back there essentially acting as a fifth center back and being the point man of that defense. So I want to reserve more judgment until 10 is back and see what that looks like. But yes, this is not us glossing over the fact that there is things that have just been absolutely abysmal. And I think that starts with the captain right now. And that first play with him and Rigoni is inexcusable. You have the band on, sir. You are the guy who was representing us. Like that is inexcusable effort. Like I can live with some unforced errors from him, which again, he had plenty. He routinely does not put enough juice on those balls where he's switching field to get it over the top of the defense. So that I can like kind of forgive. This one play is inexcusable by him, and it really kind of set the tone for that offense to just look disconnected throughout the entire game. So get healthy, get back here versus St. Louis. We owe them one for sure. And I hope that you get 3 points there and you look at these first 3 games, only getting 1 out of 10 and walking away with 4 points. Worst things have happened to this club.
Yeah, and obviously, we'll preview the St. Louis matchup on Wednesday's episode, but I'm with you. I'm reserving judgment especially on the offense. And obviously that means the team as a whole. When our best player has not played yet, headed into match day 3, and he's expected back. Do I expect that to make the offense start humming and generating like, again, I just don't. I'm right now at a point, and again, we can't draw these conclusions because he hasn't played. But I would rather lose the way we did last year, generating offense and having some more exciting games, than what we've done the first 2 weeks. So I'm expecting us to look better offensively next week when Seba is reportedly going to be good to play at least some minutes. But it's so rough right now. And that's annoying. It's annoying that he hasn't played yet, so we can't it feels like an excuse, but it's just a reality.
It gets some closure on actually if it is actually this bad. But
exactly.
Look, man, that Seattle team, they really wanted 3 points last night.
Yes.
They have been one of the more popular picks to win the Western Conference. They get their ass beat by LAFC, get a PK to make it look respectable at the end of that game there, but they had no chance in that game. So they coming home, your home opener, I know they're shorthanded, but they fucking wanted 3 points last night. And for us to get a result on the road is great. And you pair that with a win at home, now we're talking about something. So let's get healthy. We survived that war. That was an absolute battle. They deserved 3 points, but that's not how this game works.
Some post-game comments from head coach Josh Wolf. He said, there's a lot that can be said for a lot of guys. I think getting Diego Rubio up to speed. O'Brien got some good minutes. Getting Biru in there, those contributions were felt. Kolmanich is coming off of 10 months where he hasn't played. So I'm proud of what he's done in the offseason to get ready for a full season. He's still got to get up to speed when you're out 10 months. It takes a while to get back physically. Danny was playing as a 10, so it's a little different for him. His position, that's been something that we're trying to get him a little further up the field and keep Alex a little closer to the back line. I think their skill sets are noticeably different, but we got to keep improving. So nothing shocking there for me. And it doesn't sound like they have plans to move Danny back in the near future. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to shake out when 10 is healthy and ready to go. And we've got 4 midfielders who I would say the most impressive out of the 4 guys that have played is Johan Valencia.
It has been, and that's not saying a whole lot because you're not going to get anything out of him offensively. So that is saying quite a bit. I hope we can find some sort of resolution, some sort of balance between moving Danny up and being able to still have him be that guy who progresses the ball up the field for us. But you look no further than the disconnect on this offense than the 2 10s that we've had play our first 2 games.
Yeah,
Owen and Danny. I'm a supporter of both of them. I love both of them. 10 is not their position. That's just not where they're best suited to play.
Not at the moment. Josh did continue. He talked a little bit about Heinzike. He said Leo's out a month to 2 months. Brennan Heinzike did have personal reasons. We have what we have, and we'll keep going to war, keep going to battle. And Sebastian, we hope he's ready for next week. There's certainly some likelihood he'll be there, but no certainty. He's got to get back out on the field. So certainly going to be looking for Driussi full participation reports at media availability later this week. He said, Emmy went 90 minutes. Rigoni, he's our DP. We need him to capture some of those moments. There's no doubt about it. He can't duck that responsibility as one of our more counted on players. I thought he worked incredibly hard. I think there's some good moments inside the game. And I think as a group, we can do more in and around goal at times. So I think he's certainly being frontward facing, a little bit nicer to Emi Rigoni than you and I. But I think there's clear, he says he can't duck that responsibility that he has on this team. And again, I think in the defensive structure, he was fine. He's just not creating anything for us offensively. But again, when 10's out there, you would think it just all goes a little bit better for everybody involved because that's the kind of player Driussi is. But that's what Coach had to say. Anything else for you on Wolf's comments?
I really like those comments. I mean, I was calling for somebody to call out Rigoni after that first game because he needed to be called out because, like he said, he is somebody that we just have to count on. The way this roster is set up right now, he has to give us something offensively. Hard to judge him fully right now without 10, But again, I thought his work rate was better. He actually was involved in this game. He was engaged, and he played hard. He played that full 90. He takes a hard foul at the end of that game, and he gets up and he plays through it. So like I respect that for sure.
Matt Hedges was available to the press last night. A couple quotes from him. He said, "The back line, Brad, even the guys in front of us, Johan, fantastic effort tonight. This is one of the toughest places in the league to come get a point and a shutout. I'm very proud of the work that we put in tonight. They had some chances, but I thought we defended well. We're working on it. I wouldn't say we're close to being at our top level right now, honestly, from our performances. We're still working. We're still putting in the work and training and just getting a result today. It shows the work we've put in as a back line. If we can put both the attack and the defense together, we'll be a solid team." And he finished by saying, as a back line, as a unit, we gain a lot of confidence from this. We stuck together for 90 minutes. Every guy was in their spot doing their work, doing their job. Getting a 0 here, you know, I played a lot of games here with other clubs, and this is one of the first shutouts I've ever had in Seattle. I'm proud of how the defense played. And that's some additional veteran leadership there, I think, frontward facing, publicly talking to the media. And you imagine he has a similar voice there in the locker room, especially on that back line.
Look, the emphasis in the preseason was defense, and this was one of our best defensive performances we've had in a very, very long time. And Matt Hedges was integral to that. Julio was fantastic. The work rate for Johnny on that side with Chu was wonderful. Komanic, I even think, was very, very serviceable that game last night, and he was in for it because, like you said, we ran him that first game a lot of minutes. He gets here a lot of minutes. So I'm super happy with the defensive unit. I'm glad that they think that they can build on this, and that it gave them some confidence going forward because they were locked the fuck in.
St. Louis City coming to town next Saturday. Preview, of course, on Wednesday's episode. Before we jump into our weekly segments, I do, like I mentioned, want to talk about, or really me just recite what Will Bruin had to say for himself on Sounder at Heart. He talked about last week's tweets. And so these are direct quotes here from Will Bruin being asked on that podcast about those tweets and about Austin, because obviously they were previewing yesterday's match a little bit as well. He said, "Full disclosure, opening weekend, I was in Miami at a wedding. By the time I stepped out of the reception after a few Coronas and was watching like the last 20 minutes of that Austin game, so I didn't catch that first half. I didn't miss much. Turned it on. It was 1-0. Then I saw Minnesota score their second. I just want to say, me editorializing here, somebody said immediately when he tweeted that stuff that he had a few. Mm-hmm. Somebody on this podcast said it. He said that's pretty much when the tweets started after Minnesota scored their second. I actually think if you go back and look, he tweeted, I think it was like 9:02 or something, which is like 30 minutes left in the game. So Will had a couple Coronas, getting his timelines mixed up there.
Couple might be even nice. You didn't see the first half, and you were like, half of the game was absolutely the fucking worst thing about that game.
He said, I don't know. For me, I love everybody at Austin. I love the organization, the players, all that stuff. But like, it's your home opener, relatively new club. It's not like Minnesota's a world beater. So you just got to come out strong. Now, maybe technically you might not be the best, but you got to come out with some intensity. Somebody inside the squad has to be like, what the hell are we doing? Some guys got to get after each other. I remember my years in Seattle internally. We had that with guys. Performances weren't great, and we held each other accountable internally. That's really important for a team. So I don't disagree with anything he's saying there. It's just like, I just don't think he was helping.
I mean, I said that shit after the first game. We have to be able to hold each other accountable, and we have a weird kind of power vacuum with this armband right now. We took it away from Alex. Does he still have that voice? 10 was in that role. It wasn't his best suit. It's not the thing that he's best at. So I agree. And Will did that shit last year. He really did. When he came in the game, you saw him being emotional with dudes. So look, brother, we've all had a few too many and sent out some tweets that we very much regret. I've been there personally. So phones down when you're drinking.
As Herm Edwards would say, right? Don't press send.
Yeah, no, it ain't worth it, brother.
So he was asked were you surprised there weren't more off-season changes in Austin? And he said, yes and no. The roster is technically very good players, very good team, very good individual quality. The one thing I will say is that I think they're, being Austin, is missing that killer instinct, killer mentality. But that's hard. You can't just go like find somebody who has that. It just has to happen naturally. When things are tough, you see teams that just look at each other like, who's gonna, like, here we go again, looking at each other saying, who's gonna step up and do something? When you're on teams with guys like, for example, Ozzie Alonso, who was getting honored by the Sounders last night. He said, when I played with Ozzie, he's one of the best competitors, wants to win the most out of anybody I've ever played with. You almost feel like you're letting him down if you're not performing well. That's probably one of the best traits a team can have. Everybody feeds off of it. I thought there would be more players being brought into Austin. I don't know the salary cap. All I had heard time and time again in the offseason is, we have no space. We have no space. But then you see other teams signing all these players. So I don't know. I don't want to talk on something I don't know about, but I feel like there more could have been done. Maybe it's coming. Who knows? And I want to focus on that second to last part there where he says, I don't want to talk about something I don't know about. I think you and I know infinitely more about the salary cap in Austin's roster situation than Will Bruin. And I found that a little interesting.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He said, all I heard about this team was that we have no money. And then other teams are spending money. Well, yeah, that's how that works. We have no money. This is not a collective thing. We didn't have the money to go get guys. Other teams, they had that money so that they were able to go get guys. I hope that breaks it down a little better.
Well, then he said, when I played last year, we were actually pretty good on the road. I couldn't go back and tell you exact records and stuff, but the group kind of came together on the road. I just don't know why they can't do that at home. That's kind of what I'm hinting to. I don't know if like the fan base is so good that it almost puts too much pressure on the team at home. But like when you go on the road, it's almost like, all right, phew, we don't have to worry about performing as well, putting on a show. We can be hard to play against. We can be tough and nitty gritty, and we can try to eke out a goal and get a result. But like it shouldn't shift home and away. Obviously, tactics change a little bit, but you should kind of have that same mentality defensively at home. I feel like I didn't explain that as well as I should have, but I hope you got the gist of it.
No, we didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
What?
Well, certainly not from the tweets. As he's explaining it here, I get what he's getting at again, but I just go back to what I said last week or at the beginning of talking about this here today. I just don't think any of it helps, like doing that publicly. Again, like unless he's just never on social media, you know what those tweets are going to do. That's what I said on last week's episode, right? Like, you know what those tweets are going to do. You know our fan base is going to eat that shit up and it's going to blow up. Because we have people from other fans of other teams seeing that and commenting. You're on a Sounders podcast, and the first thing they ask you is about your tweets about Austin. So again, I just thought it's not the best look, but again, it's not horrible. He didn't insult anybody personally, publicly. And they did ask, I think it was Phil who asked Matt Hedges about it in the media availability last night. Of course, Hedges was like, oh no, I didn't see that. But then he was like, I think putting up a shutout here at home proves our mentality. So I think he did see it, but professional that he is, declined to comment there. But man, am I glad that they got that result in that in the view of this, just because.
Those are some baffling comments from Bruin, man. I'm actually pretty concerned.
The last thing he said here, he was talking about Driussi. He said he's a spark on the offensive side. He creates chances. He's kind of the guy that when things are tough, everyone looks to like, hey, what are we going to do? Maybe not the most vocal, but he leads by example and by his actions. Missing him is tough. When you're in the final third, everyone's going to be like, where's Seba? Where's Seba? And so I just added that in there at the end because I think, like, from a player's perspective who was just on this team, in this locker room, on this roster, again, that last part to me is pointing to why we cannot fully judge this team without 10. Because there's a guy last year who was like, yeah, when shit gets tough, we're wondering where the best player is. So anything else for you on Will Bruin?
Good for you, Will, man. Hope you have fun.
Enjoying retirement.
I hope you had a good time at the wedding.
All right. Well, that will take us into our weekly segment where we talk about
the best keeper in the world.
Damian Loss out there with Louisville City FC rather. Sorry, Louisville. They're continuing their preseason. It's almost over here. They had an exhibition this past Friday against Jackson Valty, Chris Pinkham, and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Damian got the start, played the full 90, let one past him in the 54th minute, and 1-0 was the final there. So offense could not get anything going. Pittsburgh, a pretty good USL side last year. I believe they were the ones that knocked Columbus Crew out of the Open Cup. I believe they went far. If they didn't win the title last year, they may have been the champs in USL, but I don't think there's anything to hang your head about there. Again, not seeing the game. But I did go to the Riverhounds site. They had a recap up, and it looked like Jackson Valty may have assisted that goal. He didn't score it, but he was in the picture, smack dab in the middle there. Got the man bun rocking again and all. So, a little Austin FC 2 reunion there.
Yeah, that's cool. Looking forward for them to getting into their season.
Yep.
Getting some good time for D.
Absolutely. We are just over a month away from Damian Loss on CBS. Like I said, we'll be reminding you pretty much every episode because that's pretty fucking cool. That's the bridge to last business day where Austin FC 2 just yesterday took on San Antonio FC down in San Antonio. 2-1 loss at the hands of one of the top USL sides of the recent few seasons. I did notice Juan Agudelo is with SAFC now, right? So like U.S. national team guy, long-time MLS vet. I was going back because I was like, God, like I had no idea that guy was still playing, much less that he is 31 still. I think he started his U.S. national team career and MLS career at age 17, if I read his bio correctly. So there's just a name for San Antonio there. 2-1 exhibition loss. I don't think there's much to hang your head about there if you're FCito, especially with no Noel, no Gomez, and no Mazzaferro yesterday, only giving up 2 with who the hell played center back for them?
Right. Oh,
I wish we could have watched, but 2-1 loss.
That's all right.
So the U.S. Open Cup format was announced, and I know a ton of people not happy about that. I'm not either. I would love to see the first team in, but how they have structured it here, Austin FC 2 will represent the club, and as a third division team from MLS Next Pro, they will enter in the first round of the tournament. So we've got a tournament game on the schedule, Tuesday, March 19th at Palmer Field, 8 p.m. kickoff. Excited for some U.S. Open Cup action at Palmer Field. Foro SC, which is a semi-pro side out of the Dallas area. So I think I'm just going to, by extension, fuck Dallas. And, I'm excited to go out there and watch these guys hopefully advance in the first round of the Open Cup on the 19th. Your thoughts there?
I mean, it's disappointing as it is that we're not going to be able to say the big boys there. Good opportunity for FC2 club here, and that'll be a good atmosphere at Palmer.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we can get a good crowd out there on a Tuesday night. And then, like I said, we did get the Academy update because those scores not updated on the site yet. But one of our Academy sources here, shout out to Chad, 13s beat TDP Elite out of Louisiana, 4-0 today. Hat trick for young Matthew Stokes. So well done, Matthew. 15s take the lead 2-0, drop 2 goals at the end, 2-2 draw against TDP Elite. 17s, 5-1 victory. So an undefeated Sunday for the Academy. We love to see it. Keep it up, boys.
Great work, boys. Matthew Stokes. Young Matthew Stokes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Let's go.
We will take that all day. All right, then 2 pieces of MLS talk here. First, this morning on the morning Wemby walk, disappointing Tom Bogert tweet comes across the timeline. Liel Abada, the guy who we talked about for 10 minutes on Wednesday's episode, rumored to be sought after by Austin FC. He is coming to MLS, signs with Charlotte FC as a young DP. So comes over with the designation that we were excited about, potentially getting him on here at Austin, lands in Charlotte. So we will see Liel Abada at Q2 in July.
Bummer. Major bummer, man.
Yep.
God, and that Charlotte team's in a wreck anyway.
Yep.
So, well, they did beat us some bets, huh?
They did. They got a draw up there north of the border. We'll discuss the bets on Wednesday's episode. Wasn't too bad, though. Wasn't too bad. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. The last thing, what's that?
The new format.
Yeah, new format. Hopefully going to help.
Everything before this format is forgiven and forgotten.
I don't know about the last part, but we'll forgive it. Last thing I want to talk about here is more me reading quotes from another podcast, but I thought this was very encouraging to me and how we want to approach our fandom here. And obviously we've been doing as much of this as possible for the fans with our cap sheets and such, and continuing to try to iterate on those over the next couple weeks. Sporting director for Atlanta United, Garth Lagerway, went on Extra Time this week with Andrew Wiebe. And he had this to say when he was talking about how we grow the league. He said, what we have to have is transparency. We have to publish this information, talking about roster information. I don't know if you're a basketball guy, a hockey guy, football, baseball guy, but you have access to all that information. When there's a trade deadline, you can speculate. You can crowdsource. That's part of the fun of being a fan. We have to appeal to a broader audience. The way that we're doing it, the way that we're going to do that in mainstream America is by giving everybody the information, so that very few people have been a GM, but they all assume they can do the job better than Lagerway or Thorrington or whomever. And the cap is public, and the allocation money is public, and the contracts are public, and that is what's going to allow people to interact with our sport in a way that they haven't been able to date. You can debate how you want to structure the rules and stuff, but the fewer restrictions, the more initiative to spend. The NFL is a closed system, right? Every player in the NFL comes out of America for the most part. Soccer is an open system. You literally cannot, by definition, control it. So you don't want a ton of restrictions around that. I'm not an advocate for no salary cap, but within our salary cap, keep the fiscal sanity, keep it within reason, but different clubs in different markets are going to spend differently than others. And if you have 30 different models, that's what's going to make it the most efficient. That's what's going to make it the most interesting, because then not only can guys like you, talking to Andrew Wiebe, debate it, but then Johnny in the street and Sally on the street can debate it as well. And by making us accessible, that's the next big frontier for the league. And I have said very similar things to you in private. I honestly don't remember if I've ranted about that on the podcast, but this is music to my ears, because that's exactly like I want to see the Steve Kornacki of MLS on the board with a week to go in the trade deadline saying Austin can move this guy here for this amount of GAM and this player who's on a homegrown contract, they can get his rights and whatever it is. We need that type of stuff to generate the content, whether you're corporate, your ESPN, your MLS, Apple TV, whatever, or you're the North End Podcast, your Texas Ring of Fire, your We Austin TV, Moon Tower, all the great outlets, Verde Pendant. I could keep going. Like, to have a guy like this with the pedigree that Garth Lagerway has in and around this league, for him to be there pushing this type of stuff, I would hope, right? And you have that owners council that met last week that Precourt's a part of. Off the top of my head, I believe Arthur Blank was in that group as well. To know that we have a voice like that for something that we really want to see as newish fans of this league, it's encouraging for me.
I agree. And it has to happen, because like everything you said, I'm not going to reiterate all of it, but like not everyone, most people want to be involved in that. They want to talk about their team, where they can improve this, that, and the other thing. I really like everybody thinks they're better than the GM, because that's part of being a fan. People just like, you believe it. Like, why are we playing this guy? So like, I know. So it has to come, man. And I'm hopeful for it.
Well, that'll do it here on episode 122 of the North End Podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking with us. We're back on Wednesday previewing the St. Louis City match and talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We're on the board. We got a point. Hoping to get 3 more this coming Saturday. We'll see you guys back here on Wednesday. Until then, he's E and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.